This is the Chapter 12, Segment 1 outline for BNS. So, getting started here, there are two barriers to understanding sexual behavior. The first one is cultural barriers, and the second one is that the fact that there's a remarkable variety of sexual behaviors among various species. To get started, there's four major stages of reproductive behavior: sexual attraction, then goes to appetitive behavior, then goes to copulation, and then goes to post-copulatory behavior. So getting on to sexual attraction, special typical traits in males have to attract females, and this is a result of sexual selection, kind of like how male peacocks have extremely colorful feathers. Most species of animals mate and the male doesn't stick around after mating. However, in some cases, if animals do live together after copulation, they are known as pair bonds. And these pair bonds are always monogamous, but they may not always be sexually monogamous. For most species, copulation is controlled by the female and requires her active cooperation. However, there are some instances where male animals will perform rape. Next, we're going to get on to appetitive behavior. These behaviors are for species that establish, maintain, and promote sexual interaction. When females show these types of behaviors, they're called perceptive. And when both animals need to be performing these behaviors to lead to copulation. When a female chooses to copulate, she is sexually receptive. She will show perceptive behaviors before copulation, and then become receptive during copulation. Females are usually only receptive when they can produce offspring, and that's why most females only mate during breeding season. Copulation involves one or more intromissions. Intromissions are when the penis enters the vagina. So during copulation, it usually involves multiple intromissions until stimulation reaches a threshold, in which case the male ejaculates sperm into the female's vagina. Animals will not mate again until after a certain refractory period. However, and this is usually could be from minutes to like hours, depending on the animal. However, the Coolidge effect is what allows many animals to resume mating if provided with a new partner. They will not resume mating with the same partner they already mated with. Post-copulatory behavior is the last behavior. In some cases, in some animals, they have copulatory lock, in which case after ejaculation, the male's penis swells and he can't remove it from the female. This is done to ensure the male's paternity. All mammals, birds, and reptiles, we're going to get onto fertilization now. All mammals, birds, and reptiles use internal fertilization. In internal fertilization, the fusion of the sperm and ovum occurs inside the female's body, and she forms a zygote. Internal fertilization allows a stable internal environment, and having the embryo inside this internal stable environment increases the chance of survival. However, since it's in the mother is carrying the embryos as they grow, they can only usually have one to a few individuals. So in internal fertilization, you can look at it as there's low children produced, but all the children have a high chance of surviving. Now, on the opposite end, aquatic species use external fertilization. And this is just a reproductive gamble, essentially, because basically both the males and the females lay their eggs outside into the ocean, and then the males just spread their seed that mixes in with the water, the sperm. And it's basically just what happens and happens, you know. And in this case, lots of eggs are produced. However, these individual eggs have a very low likelihood that they will survive. So that's why they have so many eggs. In some rare cases, there's a type of fertilization called parthenogenesis, in which females produce offspring that is a clone of themselves. This occurs in turkeys and the bearded dragon and the pit viper. However, those three species do still have males. This just occurs once in a while if the female hasn't already mated with a male. However, there are some species that are unisexual and have no males and rely only on this. Next, we're going to go on to the reproduction of rats. So we're going to get started with the fact that rats actually do not court each other, and they rely on odors. This works because females are spontaneous ovulators, and in which case, during the time they ovulate, they display proceptive behaviors. Females can ovulate pretty much every 4 to 5 hours, in which case she will start seeking out a male and emitting hormones. Both animals produce ultrasonic vocalizations. These sounds are done to prompt a mate to mount the female, and in which case the females will remain in a lordosis position with their rump high in the air and tail off to the side. During copulation, the female and the male orchestrate 7 to 9 intromissions, with male springing away each time. Eventually, this leads to the male ejaculating, and the male and female separate, and they both groom themselves separately for at least 5 minutes. However, eventually they'll go for multiple rounds of these 7 to 9 intromissions. The reason for this is that repeated intromissions cause the release of hormones in the female brain that stimulates pregnancy. In males, they have testosterone that mediates the male's interest in copulation, and in females have estrogen that is secreted during ovulatory facilities and produce proceptive behavior. For females, the ventromedial hypothalamus is needed for lordosis position. Lesions diminish lordosis. This also goes back to estrogen because it affects neurons of the ventromedial hypothalamus, causing production of progesterone. The ventromedial hypothalamus sends axons to the periaqueductal gray, whose lesions diminish lordosis. Neurons then project to the medullary reticular formation, which projects to the reticulospinal tract. After this, a descending signal from the brain is integrated with sensory inputs from the flanks and rump. And this goes into the hypothalamic medial preoptic area, MPDA. The MPDA is full of steroid-sensitive hormones, and lesions abolish male copulatory behavior. Placing testosterone implants in the MPDA restores mating. However, lesions do not interfere with the male's motivation to copulate. They will still try to go for a female. The MPDA is the final this is because the MPDA is the final common pathway for male copulatory behaviors. When MPDA sends axons to the midbrain, which projects either to the basal ganglia, which coordinates mounting behavior, and also to the spinal cord via the brainstem nuclei, and this regulates reflexes of copulation. MPDA is also responsible for penile erection. For ejaculation to occur, MPDA must inhibit the inhibitory PGM population.